Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brianna Ojard, and I want to thank you for joining us for today's workshop, where we're going to take a look at the Customer FX Lead Assignment tool. And today, your presenter will be Scott Weber. Before we get started, I'm going to just go through a couple things here. First, you will have noticed your line is placed on mute. However, we definitely encourage you to post any questions you have to the question pane. And at the conclusion of today's webinar, we'll get to as many of those as possible. If we run out of time or we're unable to answer your question right away, we will follow up with you via email. And I'll just throw it out there, if you think of something later on after the conclusion of today's webinar that you have a question about, go ahead and either send an email to myself or Scott, or you can go on to customerfx.com, hit the info tab, and you can send your question that way, and Scott and I will get that and follow up with you. But that's all I have, so I'm going to turn over to Scott and we can get started.
Great. Thank you, Bree, and welcome everybody. This is kind of different than the normal type of webinars we do, but that's all right. We hope it has some value to those that have a chance to watch this. So what I want to start out by talking about is, well, why would I want a lead assignment tool? That's what we're going to be showing you today. So what we have found over the years is that a lot of companies who do use leads within Infor CRM have to include somewhat of a manual process to get that lead into the hands of the right sales rep or even an outside distributor who's been tasked with following through or following up with that lead. And so that can be challenging to make that happen. Usually what you end up doing is either trying to do territory realignment or build a group and then do a bulk update of the account manager. So there are sort of more manual ways to do it. But what we're going to show you today is a tech stack, I'll call it, that we created that makes that happen automatically for you without somebody actually having to touch the lead at all to get that lead to be assigned to the proper salesperson for whatever the reason would be. Now, one of the biggest challenges with any of these kind of automation tools is, how do we tell the system which rep should be the one that's working on the lead? And so we thought about, building some kind of a rules engine to make that happen, and that can get very elaborate and very clunky, and probably in a lot of cases it's not a one-size-fits-all solution because people assign leads for all kinds of reasons. Maybe because somebody didn't follow up on the lead soon enough, or they suddenly bought some product that moves them to the territory or of a different rep or a different responsibility within your organization. So this kind of solves all of that in the most simple way I could imagine it actually happening. So what I'm showing you today is actually very little new code that we've introduced into Infor CRM, and yet at the end of the day, it does a fantastic job of assigning leads to the right salespeople automatically and in the background without, again, human intervention. So when I mentioned earlier that it's built on a stack, there are really two components to it. One of them is right inside of the Infor CRM interface, where we've added over on the nav bar a new area under administration called lead assignment. And so here you're going to see that I have created some auto assignment jobs that I want the system to do for me. But the real power of this is I did this based upon groups that already exist or I'm going to build for leads. So here's what I mean by that. If we open up one of these auto assignments here, and it's cleverly called auto assignment, what we're saying is if a new lead gets into the system, and it doesn't matter how it got there, whether you imported it from a list, imported it through SQL, or used the lead import wizard, Or they filled out a form, let's say on a landing page, if you've got Inbox Guru or Sales Fusion or something that's creating net new leads in your system. None of that matters how the lead actually ended up in the system, because this tool is going to work against every source of that lead. We don't care. So what you're seeing on this screen is that the qualifying group, in other words, the group that the lead has to fall into in order for this to set the account manager to Kathy Hughes and the owner to everyone, is the simple result of the fact that if we go into the leads area, that there are leads in that group. Now, this particular group is an ad hoc group, and that works fine as well. But you can also use it against dynamic groups. So all that really matters is an existing lead in your system met the filter criteria that you established when you built a group. So if they are in the group today or fall into a group a month from now, it doesn't matter, because the system is going to process and assign that lead to the correct rep based on how you have set up the lead assignment. Now, because this is built in the regular application architect, you can expand this. You can have it change other fields to something else. Now, in this example, we're setting the account manager and or the owner, but you don't have to do both. You could do one or the other. So the only thing that really matters here is the auto assignment is the Infor CRM lead group that we told it to look at, find leads in there, and then reassign them. So when I try to find it, this is my list of all of my groups, both ad hoc and dynamic. So you pick the group because you already built the criteria or the reasons why within that group, why you want it to be reassigned. So now, the other thing you will notice here is there are numbers or priorities set for these groups. Now, the reason why that exists is, I'll give you an example. Let's say that you just imported a list of California-based leads. And normally, every lead in California belongs to one of your particular sales rep. We'll call him Johnny. However, you have another rep where they are in the city of Los Angeles. So that's a separate territory, still in California, but in the city of Los Angeles. So that would allow you to create two different lead assignments. One of them is for everybody in California, but if I have a higher ranking group for California, Los Angeles leads, those can go to a different rep. So we had to do this because if you think about it, the same lead record could qualify and exist in multiple groups, not just one. So they could end up in many groups. So this allows you to tell the auto lead assignment, I get it, these are all in California, but I want you to also check to see if some of these California leads are in Los Angeles, and give those to a different rep. So it's just a mechanism for making sure they end up in the proper assignment, even if they fall into one or more groups. So that's the purpose behind priority. Now, the other thing we're doing is, if we go back and look now at the leads that are in the auto assignment group, and we have an auto assignment firing that's going to be reassigning these leads, you'll notice some of them have a T and some of them have an F. So when our system auto assigns a lead, it updates the lead assignment field to a T so that it does not, in the future, try to process and reassign that record again if the criteria changes, or if some other group's been assigned to an auto lead assign priority that overranks it. But what also you can do here is, if we go into, let's go into all leads here and just pick on Don Elder here, you'll notice there's a checkbox that was added to the screen that says lead was auto-assigned. And his is not checked, which means he's eligible to be reassigned if he falls into one of the groups that the lead assignment engine is going to process and change. So once that happens, he's going to belong to whoever the new owner or account manager is that assignment told him to be. So what's powering all of this is the job manager. So again, we just use the built-in capabilities of Infor CRM, and we're using the job manager to auto-assign these leads. So it's running in the background and doing the work to get these leads assigned to where they belong. So you can set these up on a schedule, or you can tell it to go ahead and run it right now if you want to, and it'll go ahead and process those leads. And once it's finished up, it's going to change any leads that have been processed to a T, and they won't be touched again. Now, what can happen is, let's say that maybe marketing is working on this lead, and they've done some qualifications, but they've been assigned in the past, and I want them to run through the auto assignment again. So all I would have to do to make that happen is uncheck the box and then add that record to the auto assign group, and it is going to put Don in that group, auto assign group. Whoops, I didn't save my change. And he's going to get processed again. So that's how you can reassign a lead that's already been assigned through the auto assignment. And there's an example that I can think of where that would come into play too. Some companies have a requirement that, well, when we're putting new leads in the system, we really need you to work on them within, let's say, a week. We're expecting them to get followed up on within a week. So you can see Don's been processed. He's now been set to a T or a true. However, I can have another auto-assigned group running that says, if Don has no activity, no history, a week from now, I want him to fall into an untouched leads group and process him again, and maybe assign him back to his manager, or assign it to a distributor or some other rep who's maybe going to give Don the attention he needs. So this, again, is all happening just based on how we have the lead assignments set up, the groups we're using, and everybody knows how to build groups, so you know how to get lead records to get into a group, or you can use an ad hoc group, doesn't matter either way. Now, the other part of the tech stack that's happening in the background is a tool we built called the Mail Queue Job. So what that is doing is that is sending an email to the newly assigned account manager. So when the auto assignment gets a new assignment that it did, in this case, we reassigned Don just a second ago. And so Kathy, whose email I'm looking at right now, she gets an email that says you have a new lead that you need to work on. And so our mail queue job that's running in the background is wired up and connected to our email server, and it's delivering this notification email one by one into that person's inbox so they know they have a new lead assigned to them and that they need to follow up on it. And you'll notice we merged in some data here. We merged in the name of the lead, the company, their email, phone, that Kathy's now the new manager, and we've even got a link in here that lets you click that, and they can go right to that lead record, Don, that I just got assigned to today. And you can see, sure enough, Kathy's now assigned to Don, and you can see some evidence that this record was modified today. So this is a brand new lead for me to go to work on. And that mail queue job is available for download. It's just a code sample that's on the Customer FX website. So you can go ahead and download this and use that tool. It creates a new table in SQL, and there's another job running in the Job Manager that's actually taking the data from this table and generating the email from it. So this is why you're seeing columns in here that are things like the to and the from and the subject. So that mail queue tool is actually filling out the row in the table, and you'll notice that even though this email that it sent is just plain text, you can also paste in HTML. So it can look better than this if you want it. So let's say it's going to go to a distributor and you want it to have your logo and some more information or better information. So our MailQ tool can create HTML formatted emails, and you can modify it to put in any data you want to pass on to that new salesperson within that email notification. All right, well, Bree, that was everything I was hoping to show. I want to make sure that I covered everything I was supposed to and ask if there's any questions that might have come in.
Scott, right now we do not have any questions. So I will put it out there again that we are happy to take any questions you may think of after we conclude this webinar. Again, you can send them to myself or Scott if you have our emails, or simply info@customerfx.com. And I will also say that we will have this up on our website for you to watch again, or perhaps share with a coworker. If you're interested in implementing the lead assignment tool, you'll be able to see that. We should have that up there before the end of the week.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks for that, Bree, and thanks everybody for watching this webinar. And we'll be probably doing another one next month, so stay tuned and have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.